Clean it like riding, but I know that they ain't. Ride or die. I go hard in the paint, yeah, homie, I'm a saint. Ride or die.
Hey, I'll make it quick because I know there's some other guys in the chat. Um, Daniel, you have a unique style of debating compared to other Muslim apologists. Like when it comes to things like slavery or sex slavery, you don't shy away from these. You just answer things like it's morally necessary. What made you decide to take this blunt approach where I'm just going to go head on after these?
Well, I wouldn't characterize it is blunt, but I'm not trying to be like an edge lord or try to just shock people like by saying these things. I just think like that these kinds of practices or values, that's what Islam teaches, and no one has had a problem like within Muslim history with these institutions like slavery or concubinage or corporal punishment, for example, or minor marriage. We don't see like within the Islamic tradition or just within Muslim society overall, people having like issues or moral problems with these practices. They're just taken for granted. Like, of course, slavery is slavery, and concubines from war, that's just part of war. Like, that's just understood. And I think that you can't really, if you were to argue against those values, or those practices, you'd have to throw the Islamic tradition under the bus. To a large extent, you'd have to throw the Quran under the bus, the practice and the statements of the Prophet, peace be upon him, under the bus. I can't see a consistent way to argue, yeah, slavery is morally wrong, without also condemning not only like the Quran, the Prophet Muhammad, but also basically 1400 years of Muslim tradition and Islamic tradition. And I don't see that as being intellectually consistent for a Muslim to take those kinds of positions.
Thank you very much for your time. I
appreciate it, James. The army was critical, and it was also understood that the winning side would take the women of the losing side. Winners would get the concubines. It was understood, and the obligations of what would come with that were also understood.
Okay. Thanks.
Trying to pin this as some kind of moral failing of Islam is a ridiculous argument. I have no problem saying that yes, in Islam there was concubinage, i.e., possession of women, i.e., sex slavery in Islam, and that's sanctioned. It's clear in the verses that you cited, Surah Al-Mu'minun and elsewhere. It's called milk yamin.
Was allowed to marry Aisha when she was 6. Would this be allowed under your system, Daniel?
I mean, this is something that many cultures practice to this day, and it's based on this biological reality. And you find many cultures where they're trying to maximize the fertility window of women because they want to have more children. And this is basically the way that evolutionary psychologists explain it. And I'm not promoting evolution, but these are people that you would respect, Harris or other atheists. They say that it's actually to an evolutionary advantage to maximize the fertility window so you have as many children as possible, because women only have about 25 to 30 years of fertility. If they wait until they're 25 or 30 or 35 to get married and have kids or have sex, then that means they'll only have maybe 1, maximum 2 children. But this will allow extinction of the population. And
both Islam and human rights are in 100% agreement that women are accountable if they break the law. And that means Islam and human rights are in 100% agreement that women should be beaten. We only differ on who should do the beating.
That was good. That's a little bit, yeah, that's not how logic works. Therefore, women can be beaten. Okay. That was a bit of a stretch. I'm probably more prone to laugh at these things, but it's actually scary. If suddenly that's how all your neighbors think, then it's scary.
It is the Quran which says in chapter 4, verse 34, that women are supposed to be obedient to their husbands. If they don't obey, then a man may warn the woman, then separate beds, and finally beat them.
That wouldn't work with me at all. I think people aren't educated. People are educated in like the Western version of Islam.
Claim they lie riding, but I know that they ain't. Ride or die. I go hard in the paint, yeah, homie, I'm a saint. Ride or